In Mosul, Afghanistan, a Marine platoon, led by Jake Atherton and commanded by Colonel Tom Mason, are passing through a small village when they encounter a local man who they caught burying IEDs. They demand the man surrender, but when he tries to pull a weapon, they shoot him dead. Mason orders Jake to retreat with his men, but Jake insists on disarming the explosives. He succeeds in disarming the bombs, but his men suddenly come under attack. Most of the Marines are killed, leaving only Tom and Jake, who return fire on the Taliban. A rocket explodes near Tom, dropping him, leaving Jake to battle the men. Wielding a machine gun, he makes his way to Tom, and soon, a chopper arrives to rescue them. 8 years later, Jake is discharged from the military and works as a mechanic at a local shop, working for his uncle and former gang member Earl. After a long day, Jake returns home to his wife Ashley and son Weston. She shows him the piling bills, knowing that they are low on cash and worried they won't be able to pay on time, but Jake reassures her that everything will work out. Later that night, Weston asks Jake about his buddies in the military and if he still talks to Mason, but Jake responds not as much as he would like. He then asks if Jake has ever killed anyone, but he avoids the questions and sends him off to bed. The next day, Jake gets to work when he spots some gang members leaving who bump into him. The leader tells Jake to warn Earl to get with the program and pay them extortion money. Jake tells them to keep walking, but when the men attack him, Jake pulls out a wrench and swiftly beats the gangsters down. The last man decides not to fight, but warns Jake that he will see him soon. Later, Jake and Earl talk about the situation. Earl tells him about his history as part of a gang and thinks that he had this coming to him. Jake is worried about Earl, knowing that the men are going to return, but Earl tells him that this is his home, and he will not allow the gangsters to push him out. Jake tells Ashley about the situation and his fight with the men, and she gets worried for him, telling him that he should have called the cops. Jake returns home later that day, only to see the gangster from earlier driving away from his home laughing at him. Jake runs inside screaming for his family, but is greeted by the grim sight of their dead bodies and breaks down in tears. The cops arrive later, asking Jake for any information on the attacker, but Jake jumps in his truck and speeds off. Jake is heading towards the city, with thoughts of his family flooding his mind and tears streaming down his face. He scans the streets until he spots the gangster's car parked outside a club and pulls up. Jake grabs his gun and enters the club and spots the man having fun. Jake then whips and shoots the closest gangster, before shooting anything that moves. He kills the last gangster while staring into the eyes of the man that killed his wife, who claims that he had to teach Jake a lesson. Without a word, Jake puts a bullet between his eyes. Jake is then thrown in prison to serve a life sentence. And 5 months in, he is still tormented with thoughts of his family, picturing how they fought for their lives before they died. One day, Jake is visited by Tom, who is worried about Jake's well-being in prison. He is trying to find an attorney to reopen Jake's case, but Jake thinks he is just where he belongs. Tom reassures him that time will help him to get over his loss, but Jake tells him he has no remorse and will carry his pain forever. He ends the meeting and returns to his cell, where he remembers returning home with Tom after the attack. Due to the attack and injury, Tom was forced to retire, but reassured Jake that he is a good soldier. Soon, Jake is brought to meet with a man who tells him that he does not belong in prison. He introduces himself as Ramsey, the leader of a private task force, but Jake tells him he is not interested and demands to be returned to his cell. That night, masked men barge into his cell and tranquilize him. Jake comes to on a roof surrounded by Ramsey and his armed team. Jake thinks they are CIA, but Ramsey tells him they are much more private than that. Ramsey has been watching Jake for a while, knowing of his military background and his stress disorder. Ramsey again reminds him that with his skills, he would be wasting away in prison, and offers Jake the opportunity to get his life back. Jake is hesitant, but knowing that he could get his freedom back, he accepts. Jake is brought to a building by Agent Lisa Muller and brought to meet with Ramsey, who formally introduces him to the team and to his organization Section 8. Jake is still skeptical and steals a pen in case he needs to defend himself. Ramsey explains that his team takes orders for the State Department and the NSA, and is sanctioned to eliminate threats anywhere in the world. He assigns Lisa to be Jake's watcher until he gets accustomed to the operations, and gives him an apartment, bank account, and car. The team plans to initiate Jake by having him fight Ajax, who is itching to see what the Special Forces soldier is capable of. Jake refuses to fight, so Ajax attacks him. Jake only defends himself from the attacks until he gets mad and slams Ajax to the ground, holding the pen to his eye. Jake stops himself and leaves, and the team mocks Ajax for getting his ass kicked. Jake is soon given his first mission to take out Alejandro Castillo, a defense contractor that started selling weapons on the black market. He recently got his hands on schematics that the State Department wants recovered, before he can share it with the Russians. The deal will be going down in Mexico, and Jake is warned that he is heavily guarded. But his mission is to eliminate everyone on site. Jake and Lisa soon arrive on location and spot Alejandro pull up to the meeting spot, where around 15 men are gathered. While Lisa stays watch, Jake pushes forward towards the men. Castillo steps out to meet with the Russian buyers, who just want to get down to business and see the product. Jake shoots the first lookout, which alerts the men, who then pull guns on each other, accusing the other side of setting them up. Shots are fired, and a shootout begins between the men. Jake uses the confusion to get closer, and after most of the men are dead, Jake moves in and wipes out the rest, leaving Castillo. He demands the schematics, but when Castillo tells him F you, Jake shoots him dead. Jake then leaves Castillo's girls alive and takes the schematics. At the base, Ramsey scolds him for not killing the girls too, thinking that Jake is not taking the team seriously. He threatens Jake with going back to prison, but Jake calls his bluff. Noting that he is determined, Ramsey tells him to get some rest. After he leaves, Ajax tells Ramsey that he is putting his hopes into Jake, who is clearly not ready. At a casino, an assassin knocks out a guard before shooting the other dead. He then enters a room where his target is in bed with girls and tells them to leave. The target knows that Ramsey sent him and offers the assassin, Locke, a lot of money, but Locke shoots him dead. He then tries to leave through the casino, but the guards begin tailing him. Locke starts taking out the guards before taking off in a full sprint towards the door. He then fires shots at the chasing guards before running outside and stealing a car. Jake gets to the apartment that the section set up for him and sees a picture of his old squad on the wall. Another flashback shows how he learnt from Tom that he may lose his foot based on the attack. Jake apologizes, but Tom tells him not to blame himself. Jake is later sitting alone in a bar when Muller comes to join him. Jake asks her to tell him about Ramsey, but she has no idea. Muller then tells him about her background in the army and how she got discharged after attacking an officer, and the two start to bond. The next day, Ramsey briefs his team about their next target, who turns out to be U.S. Senator Jim Graham. The team is tasked with retrieving digital information and eliminating the senator. The next day, Jake and the team arrive at the senator's ranch in a cleaning van as he is giving a campaign speech. Muller is tasked with retrieving the files, and she infiltrates the compound and kills the guards before accessing the computers and downloading the information. The men are alerted, and they hurriedly get the senator to his truck. The team realize that they have been made, and Jake takes off sprinting after the truck and shooting. The senator almost gets away, but Jake takes a shortcut off a cliffside and cuts off the jeep. He kills the guards and turns his gun on the senator, who begs him to spare his life for his wife and kids. Jake hesitates, but the senator is shot by Ajax, who turned up with the team. This bothers Jake, who then sits alone staring at a picture of Ashley and drowning his sorrows in a bottle. Suddenly, he senses movement outside, and soon a team of assassins enter the apartment searching for him. Jake is able to escape the house easily before the men can find him. Jake then goes to visit Tom, wanting to know any details about Section 8. Tom is aware of a Section 8 which was dismantled in the 90s, which recruited disgraced operatives. Jake asks about Ramsey, but Tom promises to make some calls and get more info. Jake then requests some money and a gun, and Tom agrees. Jake then goes into hiding. He contacts Ramsey, who urges him to come in so they can clear up the misunderstanding, and tells him that he should not have hesitated with the senator. Ramsey wants to call in Locke to hunt for Jake, and ignores Muller, who claims that she is able to bring Jake in. Locke gets the call and is given Jake's name as his next target. Jake returns to California, always keeping on the move to not be detected. He bumps into a kid who turns out to be Weston's friend, Landon. Landon misses Weston and tells Jake that everyone is glad he killed the gangsters. Landon adds that he used to see the gangster who killed his family meeting with people in suits regularly before the incident. Unknown to Jake, Locke has found him and is eyeing him from across the street. Locke then pulls his gun and opens fire on Jake, who pushes Landon to safety and takes off running. Locke keeps firing, even switching to a submachine gun, but Jake escapes and runs into a building. The cops soon pull up to the scene and order Locke to surrender, but he kills the responding cops. He later calls Ramsey, admitting that he lost Jake, and Ramsey begins to doubt that Locke is really the best, but Locke promises to find him and kill him. Jake goes to visit Earl, thanking him for raising him when his parents were missing and believing in him. Suddenly, Jake is alerted to movement around the building and tells Earl to grab his gun. Ajax, Muller, and the other guys enter the garage armed. Earl manages to shoot one man dead while Jake is attacked by Brunner. The two begin to fight, but Jake manages to stab him in the neck. Ajax opens fire on him, and the two exchange gunfire until Jake runs out of bullets. Ajax wants to fight, so he drops his gun and tells Jake to run them hands. The two collide, both throwing some heavy punches and throwing each other around the garage. Jake manages to defend himself well against the heavy punches, but when Ajax grabs a weapon to stab him, Muller shoots him dead. Earl then gives Jake the keys to his car, and he and Muller take off. Muller explains that she wants out of Section 8 and is using the opportunity Jake created. Jake is hesitant, not sure who to trust, but ultimately decides to go after Ramsey with her help. The two get to Montana, to the location where Ramsey is suspected to be hiding out. He warns Muller that she should escape, but he is suddenly knocked out. Jake is bound in an office, where it is revealed that Muller betrayed him to Ramsey. At that moment, Tom enters the office revealing that he is working with Ramsey. The two plan to have Jake's family killed so that he could be recruited as a killer for the organization. The two then leave Jake in the room to decide what to do with him. Ramsey thinks that they should kill Jake immediately, and Tom agrees, and excuses himself to the bathroom. Tom then enters Jake's room, revealing that he was working behind the scenes to bring down the rogue Section 8, and could not tell Jake. Now that Jake is captured, and all the main Section 8 members are here, he plans to launch his attack now. Soon they trip the alarm, and when the guards enter the room, both men take them out and arm themselves. The two then kill the other men who try rushing the room, making their way towards Ramsey. Ramsey and Muller run for cover as Jake and Tom kill their operatives. Ramsey then offers Jake $3 million sitting on the table for him to walk away, but Jake refuses. While Ramsey talks, Muller tries circling around, but Tom shoots her and gets shot in the process. Ramsey then tries grabbing the cash, but Jake fires on him, causing him to run off. He then holds Tom as he passes away, but suddenly Muller holds a gun to him, but it turns out that she is out of bullets. She attacks Jake with some swift strikes, dropping him. But when she pulls a knife, Jake causes her to stab herself. Ramsey jumps in a truck to escape, and Jake hotwires a car to give chase. He quickly catches up with Ramsey, and the two exchange gunfire, but Ramsey gets distracted and crashes into a parked car. Jake then jumps out and comes to the van with his gun to find Ramsey injured. Ramsey mocks him for always hesitating, but Jake immediately shoots him dead and leaves. A while later, Jake gets a secret meeting with the U.S. Attorney General, who thanks him for bringing down Section 8 and Ramsey, who had gone rogue and recruited his own set of killers. The Attorney General then offers Jake the opportunity to work for them as an operative and tells Jake to think about it. Jake returns to the apartment, only to find Locke there waiting for him. Jake tells him that it is over since Ramsey is dead, but Locke tells him that his job is not yet completed. As Locke stands, Jake attacks and disarms him, but Locke is the more skilled fighter. He hits Jake with powerful kicks and punches, and throws him around the room easily. The two then pick up knives and begin slashing at each other, but they both disarm each other and start throwing punches once more. But Locke gets the upper hand and begins kicking him around. Jake then spots his gun under the couch and quickly grabs it and shoots Locke dead. A few days later, Earl gets a voicemail from Jake, apologizing for not saying goodbye in person, but thanks him again for everything. We then see Jake taking a bus away from the city. He calls the Attorney General, telling him that he is in, and the Attorney General welcomes him to Section 9. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.